It's time we give back. Sow a seed and show someone where love's at. Even if you don't give a dime, give your heart and share your time. Help somebody else in life. Give back. Let's give back.
Welcome to this episode of Ignite, Empower, Transform, where we showcase urban superheroes that impact their communities. Today, we have a very special guest, my friend, my neighbor, and my fraternity brother, Mr. Rocky Bucano. Rocky.
What's happening, Brother H?
What's up, Brad? What's
06.
going on? 06, baby. Rocky, man, your life is very, very interesting, bro. And I want to take some time over the course of this show to talk about the different facets of Rocky Bucano.
Mm-hmm.
When your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren watch this, I want them to really have a sense as to who you are as a person. You could put this in your family archives.
Oh, okay. All right. That'll be good.
All right. Rocky, tell us about your Bronx story from the beginning.
Well, I grew up in the northeast section of the Bronx in the Valley.
Right.
I was born and raised by two parents, have two sisters, no brothers. Always liked enjoying what my sisters used to be into. You know, my sister was into fashion and she liked the Motown sound.
Right.
So I grew up listening to music at a very early age and got inspired just, by listening to all the music that she used to play in the house.
Right.
And then,
who were some of those artists?
Stevie Wonder, the Supremes, the Vandells, Martha Reeve and the Vandells. She listened to so many people, even like some of the Spanish, players like Tito Puente. And,
Tito Puente, legendary.
Because they grew up in East Harlem.
Okay.
But then my parents moved to the Bronx, and I was born in the house where they moved to. So
Okay.
I was born and raised in the Bronx, and
Okay.
and just growing up in that neighborhood, two family house, nice community, having two parents that were really supportive.
Right.
And really got into music later on in my early teenage years.
Right.
When my sister decided she wanted to have a little cookout in the backyard. She invited a cousin of ours who I did not know at that time, but his name is DJ Jones.
Okay.
And
I've heard that name before.
Yep, he was the #1 DJ, mobile DJ at that time. Just listening to WBLS and WWRL, I would always hear that name, DJ Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And then my sister told me, he said, this is your cousin. We're going to have him come over and play some music. I like, really? So I told all my friends, and they're like, DJ Jones coming to Rocky's house. So then when he came and he pulled up in his little Volkswagen minivan,
right,
and had DJ Jones on the side, I was like, wow, he is the real deal.
Right.
And then when I heard the music and how it sounded and how it mixed, I was like, this is what I wanted to do.
Okay.
Even though, I was playing basketball, like the biddies and stuff like that.
So let's talk about that before we get into the music piece. You're 6'8".
I'm 6'8".
So you've been balling for quite some time as well.
Yeah, I played basketball since I was like 8, 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And then my best friend, his name is Kelvin Jones. His father, Ted Jones, was the coach of a semi-pro team called the Courtmasters.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them.
And a lot of these guys that were like big-time basketball players, and he had a great relationship with everybody, all the big-time coaches, and he himself was a good basketball player, Mr. Jones.
Right.
And every time I used to go to, hang out with Kelvin at his house, I go into the basement, and there would be nothing but trophies.
Wow.
That his father had won over the years.
Wow.
So, he was a good mentor. He would take me and Kelvin up to Eastchester Road. There was a little park over there by Holy Rosary, and we'd be out there in the wintertime with gloves on, shooting hoops.
That's how we used to do it.
We
didn't have video games.
We didn't have video games.
Yeah,
we had to go to the park.
Exactly.
So, and then he gave me my mentoring skills in basketball. And I love basketball. My two passions was basketball and music. And, played basketball at Truman High School with Kelvin. And then I went to University of Buffalo for a half a year. I couldn't take the snow.
It's cold up there, bro.
Yeah.
Now that you're Alpha Man, you used to that ice cold.
Ice cold, that's true, brother.
But Buffalo is ridiculous,
Yeah,
man.
When it snowed, you couldn't even see. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Great school, now they're much big now. They're like a Division I school.
It's flagship school, bro.
When I was there, they were Division III.
Top notch.
Yeah, so they've grown over the years.
Yes, sir.
And then I came back to New York and went to City College and was playing with Floyd Lane at City College.
The legendary Floyd Lane.
Yep. And, doing my music thing, DJing here and there. But my passion was always music. I wanted to be in music. I wanted to be on the radio. My idol was like Frankie Crocker.
Oh, yeah.
So
if Frankie Crocker isn't on your radio isn't really on.
that's true. And
that was his thing.
I went to broadcast school, got my FCC first class license, thinking that would help me get onto the radio. And it didn't help me get onto the radio. It helped me get into TV.
Wow.
So I got an offer a couple weeks after I got my license to take a job down in Texas at a television station in Texas, KBMT in Beaumont, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just so excited to get a job with an FCC license. I was like, wow, forget school. I'm going to go work.
Wow.
So I went to Beaumont, Texas, against the wishes of my parents, because they're like, you don't have no relatives down there, you don't know nobody down there.
Right.
But it was a learning experience. I used to be the sign-on engineer, mm-hmm. where you had to turn on the station, basically, the transmitter. You had to calibrate the transmitter, run the national anthem before the programs.
That's an important job, bro.
Yeah.
That's very, very responsible.
Yep. So I used to be the first engineer in there, running the early morning, television shows on tape. It was like these big 2-inch tape machines.
Right.
And then we go into the news, and then we go into the regular programming.
Right.
And that's what I did for about a year. And then I sent my resume out to a couple stations, and I got a call from a friend of a friend that worked at the station I was working at in Beaumont. And he had told her that I was looking for a job. And she introduced me to the chief engineer at a Metro Media station, KRIV, in Houston. And I went there, interviewed, and they said, man, we'd love to have you, man. And I packed my bags from Beaumont, jumped in the car, and drove to Houston. And now I'm in a bigger city. But it was still, even though I was in Houston, it was still like a culture shock from going from New York to Texas. It was just a crazy, crazy time.
So Rocky, hold that thought, and we'll be right back.
I already knew that I was going to go to college, from a young age. I definitely want to major in political science, become the mayor or something, make the situation better for other people. My name is Justin, and I am your dividend.
Welcome back. My name is Hosea James Givan II, and we're here for this next episode, or this next segment of Ignite and Power Transform. We are here with Rocky Bucano. Rocky, man, quite a story so far.
Yeah, it's been a long journey,
So you were in Beaumont, Texas,
moved to
doing
Houston.
your thing. Next move was to Houston. Mm-hmm. Then what happened?
So being in Houston, I had a little bit more opportunities than Beaumont. I was able to moonlight and do my passion in music, which was DJing.
Right.
So my first gig was at a club, maybe a half mile from the television station. and it was called Paseo nightclub, and it was owned by
About what year was this?
This was 1980,
Wow.
and it was owned by a guy that owned a bunch of clubs in Houston. He was like the club maven, you know, the maestro. His name was Charles Bush, and he had Paseo, Faces, and he opened up another club.
Was he related to the Bush family?
No, no, no.
Okay.
He was a brother.
Okay.
And
That doesn't mean he wasn't related. Now.
that's true too. And he opened up a club with Earl Campbell
Oh yeah.
called the Tyler Rose, and I was the DJ there.
Legendary running back from the Houston Oilers.
Yep. And you know, my style of DJing, which is, you know, New York style hip hop, was something brand new to those people down there, because the DJs.
You introduced a whole new form of music.
Yeah, the DJs didn't even mix down there.
Wow.
So when records were blended or cut, and people would just keep dancing, they'd be like, "How did he do that?"
Right.
You know, so
you were like a magician.
I was like a magician, and then, you know, the crowd got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then I played at the Tyler Rose when they first opened, and the first guest that came into the club was Teddy Pendergrass.
Oh really?
Yep,
Oh,
Teddy
wow.
Pendergrass. He came in with his mink coat. He had just did a show in Houston,
Oh wow.
and the week after that is when he crashed.
Oh man.
Yep. So that I got a chance to see Teddy before he became paralyzed.
Oh, that's okay.
Yep.
Wow.
So, you know, while I'm DJing, all these songs are starting to pop up. You know, '79, Curtis Blow with the Breaks, Sugar Hill Gang,
Yep.
Rapper's Delight,
Yep.
Grandmaster Flash, and
Yeah.
The Message, and I know all these guys.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, this is really great. You know,
How did you meet them?
well, I met them from my days here in New York before I moved to Texas.
Right.
You know, we were all DJs. We were all in the music gang. You know, I was in the Valley. Flash was in the South Bronx. Kool Herc was in the West Bronx. Africa Bambaataa was in Bronx River. And we all knew each other.
Right.
So it was interesting because I never thought that you would take the rap stuff and put it on records. And
Right.
when it went on record, I was like, now we're talking. It's taking on
It's
a
getting
new,
serious.
It's getting real serious.
Yeah.
You know, so it was real interesting to see that part of it happening, because
Right.
I was there before the records.
Right.
And now we're making
I
records.
remember the tapes, man. You know, when
Right.
you used to, oh wow, we got Starsky. And,
Yeah, you know,
I remember the
DJ
tapes, man.
Hollywood. and
Hollywood.
Everybody
yeah.
used to record, you know, cassette tapes. And
Yeah, I remember the tapes.
And then seeing it going from that to recorded, you know, music
Right.
was just something else. And then hearing it in the clubs and seeing everybody dancing
Right.
to what we thought was just being fun,
Right.
you know, and competitive.
Right.
And, you know, we were just doing, you know, hip hop was just about bringing communities together. The Latinos, the blacks, everybody would party, you know, with each other. You know, obviously
Breakdancing.
breakdancing.
Yeah.
You know, it was about bringing people together and
Yeah.
having fun.
Yeah.
And then, you know, during my transition in Houston, I was like, I got to get back to New York, man. I
Right.
got to get back, because I want
That's
to get
where the action is.
I got to get into the music business.
Right.
So I had met one of my best friends in Houston. His name is Jeffrey Caldwell. He's one of our fraternity brothers.
Oh, is that right?
He's now Dr. Jeffrey Caldwell. He's a dentist down in D.C.
Okay, you've talked to me about him
Yeah,
before.
so yeah,
Okay.
he's from the. He crossed in D.C., but his cousin is Ernest Williams, and they were, I think, in the Long Island chapter.
Yes, and now he's down in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yes, I know Ernest very well.
Yep.
Very
So,
well.
so long story short, Jeff and I packed our car, drove from Houston, Texas, back to New York. We're in New York. He's just taking a pit stop. You know, I think he went to NYU for a hot minute, and then he went to Howard University Dental School.
Right.
And I tried to get in the record business, and I couldn't find a job. You know, so I started sending my resumes to the local TV stations, and I got a job at Channel 9. And I got a job just by sheer happenstance, you know, because I was working with the Houston Astros.
Right.
doing their broadcast games,
Right.
but I wasn't really a technical director. And they saw on my resume that I was the technical director for the Houston Astros baseball, but it was different down there.
Right.
I wasn't sitting in a truck. So they said,
Right.
well, you was technical director down there, you could be technical director for the Mets. So I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
And then I get to Shea Stadium, I see this big board.
Wow.
And I was like, what?
Wow.
And
But you handled it.
And I learned on the job, man, like
Yeah.
this, man.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a blessing, man.
It was a blessing.
Oh, you obviously are very bright. I know that just from getting to know you through the years.
Yep.
And I know from that you made it. You continued on in
Yep.
that industry.
Yeah, so I worked at Channel 9 from 1982 to 1987, and during that time, I was like, how do I get in the record business? So
Right.
my friend Milton LaCroix, who's now a boxing trainer, he just actually trained some guys that were just fighting for a title. So he's been very successful, and we started a little record company called MLO Records.
What was it called?
MLO.
MLO.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, which standed for Milton LaCroix, but he called it Music Lovers of the World. But it was really,
Right.
it was really his label.
Okay.
And our first group was a group called Masters of Ceremony. They produced a record called Crime, produced by Teddy Riley.
Get out of here.
Yep.
Really?
First record.
Oh, wow, man.
Teddy Riley was a little 15-year-old piano wizard.
I just saw him last week, bro.
Yep.
He's a humble guy, man. I really enjoyed his presentation. I was at a conference last week in Chicago.
Okay.
And he had a presentation, and he talked about his humble beginnings, and he might have at some point mentioned some part of what you're talking about now, but he's a good dude.
So my friend Milton spotted Teddy at Amateur Night at the Apollo. He was playing piano for his good friend, which became his brother-in-law later, Omar Chandler. You remember Omar Chandler?
Yeah.
So Omar is on Joy and Pain, Rob Bass's record.
Yes.
Joy
And Pain.
So that person singing is Omar Chandler.
Okay.
So Omar wanted to be like a Teddy Pendergrass kind of guy.
Yo, let's hold that thought, brother, because we have to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm your host, Larry V. Stark Jr.
I'm your host, Rachel Cheeks Givan.
I'm your host, Hosea James Givan II.
I'm your host, Rebecca Givan.
Hi, my name is John Jenkins.
Tune in to
Ignite
Empowered
Transform
every Tuesday night
at
8 p.m.
on BronxNet.
Give back, let's give back.
Welcome back to this segment of Ignite, Empower, Transform. My name is Hosea James Givan II. I'm your host, and I'm here with Rocky Bucano. He's a Bronx legend. And the more I listen to your story, brother, I've always been impressed. And we can't even get into some of the things that because we're not going to have time.
Right.
But let's stick on the theme of hip hop, because that's kind of what's, we're producing this particular show, so it airs during Hip Hop History Month, right? So let's talk about where you are now, and then I'm gonna interrupt at some point, because I want to drop some names, and once you give me some feedback on some of the names I'm gonna drop.
Yep.
Okay.
So I spent almost 30 years in the music business,
Right.
and still in the music business. But my passion project now is to establish a permanent home for hip hop. So 5 years ago, I was fortunate and blessed to come across an opportunity to begin the pursuit to establish the Universal Hip Hop Museum. It was an idea that wasn't the first time that someone had pursued, the development of a museum for hip hop.
Right.
But, I think we had the motivation and we had the resources and the support.
What I
to
like
get it off
about
the ground.
this is that the people like yourself, who was from the Bronx, which
Right.
is a origin of hip hop, is right here in the
Right,
Bronx.
right.
And your relationship back then brought to today, bringing all those people together to kind of make this happen. So that's what makes this so exciting.
True, and that's what gives it a little bit of credibility.
Exactly.
because the other people who wanted to do it, they were outside of hip hop.
Right.
They had no connection to the culture.
Exactly.
So thankfully the Lord has blessed this project. It started 5 years ago with me, Curtis Blow, Grandmaster Melly Mel, Mickey Benson, Africa Bambaataa, Grand Wizard Theodore, Joe Conzo, and Sean Cutman, LG Thomas, and myself. And we put our minds together. We looked for different properties. We were first looking at the Kingsbridge Armory on the West Bronx.
I remember that.
We had a guy who was trying to help us. His name was Young Woo.
Yep.
And he ended up losing that bid to get space at the Kingsbridge Armory. Then our frat brother gave us another opportunity.
Yes, he
Michael
did.
Blake.
Assemblyman Michael Blake.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me about the Bronx County Courthouse.
Right.
So we went looking at that space, and that was a beautiful building, but the owner of the building he didn't understand the vision.
Right.
So it didn't really work out. And then maybe about 2 weeks after that, we were looking for another space, and I get a phone call from this real estate developer who wanted to submit a proposal to the city of New York to acquire a piece of land.
So he sought you out.
He sought us.
Wow, that's a blessing.
The company sought us out.
Wow.
And the way it came about, the guy, his name is Hosea Sanchez, and he's one of the directors at L&M Development Corporation. He said they were in a meeting. They had this proposal that they were going to submit to the city of New York, and they wanted to see if there was a hip hop museum.
Oh, get out of here.
They didn't know if one existed.
What?
So they just typed in hip hop
that's
museum
incredible,
in
man.
Google, and then they saw Universal Hip Hop Museum.
Wow.
And said, wow, there is a hip hop museum. So he called up and they did some research, and they saw that we were looking at different spaces. And he said, are you guys interested in listening and learning about a new opportunity? I was like, yeah, what is it? He said, well, the city of New York issued an RFP for a piece of land over there on 149th Street. And it's called, we're going to call it Bronx Point. It's right on the waterfront.
Yep.
And I'm like, that sounds great. And then when I saw the actual location, I was like, they're going to build it from the ground up. We don't have to occupy a space that's already built. I said, I'm in. So it took us 2 years. We submitted a proposal. It's called the Bronx Point. And the museum, it serves as the cultural arts anchor for the project, which is the museum and about 710 units of mixed affordable housing. That's going to be on top of the museum, and a retail space with a movie theater, restaurants.
Oh, that's incredible.
And it's all on the waterfront. So, it's a project that's going to cost about $80 million.
Okay.
And just this past year, we got a commitment from $4 million from the city council.
Wow.
And another $4 million from the state. And we're waiting for, hopefully, within the next couple of weeks, another $5 million from the state. So
that puts you at about 14 million, roughly.
Plus, we have $12 million that the developers committed in tax credits.
So that's 26 million.
26 million.
So you got about 54 million to go.
Yeah, 54 million to go. So
okay.
We have, we're going to break ground next year,
okay.
2019. And then, we have 3 years for construction. So around end of 22, 23 is when we should be finished.
Okay.
But, we're telling everybody 2022 is when we open.
Okay, so the fundraising will continue, right? So you got different people doing different things.
Yeah, we got a fundraising committee. We have an educational committee, as you already know.
Right.
We're partnering with different corporations to get them involved. So this year, 2019, is really the year where fundraising will accelerate.
Okay.
On the private side,
okay.
Getting a lot of private donations and obviously we got to hit our big stars in hip hop.
No doubt.
To create legacies for them.
No doubt.
And I'm sure they're going to want to invest in their own legacies.
Okay, so we got about 2 minutes left. I'm going to drop some names on you. I want you to give me some thoughts on these names. And there's a spot I want to ask you about. African Bambaataa.
The master of records.
Okay.
He has all kind of records that you won't believe, and he knows everything from funk to techno to pop to hip hop. He plays it all, plus he travels the world, so he's the master of records.
DJ Hurt.
Kool Herc, the Hercules of hip hop, the originator, the founder, he is the father of hip hop.
Grandmaster Flash.
Grandmaster Flash, good friend of mine. No one cuts faster than Grandmaster Flash.
Club 371.
Where DJ Hollywood and my man Eddie Cheever, they used to rock 371.
Bruh, I tell you, man, I went there one time. It must have been either late 70s, early 80s. I had so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Hollywood is in a league by himself in terms of his range,
mm-hmm.
right? Because he could sing.
Right.
And he used to incorporate that oftentimes in his presentation.
Yeah.
And
he was a multi-talented engineer. What I say, DJ, MC,
right,
entertainer.
Yes.
And just a good mixer.
That's right.
He knew how to do it all.
So, man, we're looking at history here in the Bronx coming to fruition in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
You're the architect, you're the leader, you're the point person. I'm proud to call you brother, friend, and neighbor. Man, this is so important for New York City. This is so important for our people. This is so important for the borough, the Bronx, and they deserve this because this is where it started. Brother, I want to thank you for coming on our show and sharing some history. We're going to have to call you back because we didn't get into certain, this can't be part of your archives without some of the things that you didn't talk about. So we got to get a part B to this.
Okay.
So we get the full scope of who you are. And you're an amazing guy, man. You're one of the brothers we talk about recreating ourselves. And we have to do that throughout the course of our lives for different reasons.
Right.
But you're the master, man. You've come so many times in so many ways, but you stay consistent.
Thank you.
There was something that you knew was your calling and your passion.
Thank you.
And it's a good thing to see you coming through with that.
Thank you.
We want to thank you for joining us for this episode of Ignite, Empower, Transform. And just remember, if it's in your heart, do your part. Today's help equals tomorrow's hope. I love our youth. Take care. My name is Hosea Givan, and we'll see you soon.
I see all your smiles and all the tears showing down on your faces. But I know all the while it's gonna be okay, yes it is. Just open up your eyes. Open up your eyes. The sun is soon to shine. The sun is soon to shine. Aim your arrow high and keep reaching for the sky. It's time we give back. Someone see and show someone where love's at. Even if you don't give a dime, give your heart and share your time. Help somebody else in life, give back.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.